Hi, welcome back to the Dylan Rounds case. Welcome if you're currently here in the live chat. I appreciate it. Yes, this is like day 234 of not wearing my red royal robe. Where has it gone? Well, make sure to check out my previous video that will explain everything and expose one individual. Make sure to check it out. I'll provide a link down below in the pinned comment section, okay? Now, today, what we're going to be looking at is the latest interview by Candice Cooley, which occurred about 5 days ago. I've only decided to cover it now because I've been doing other videos in between, okay? I didn't think it was that important to do, but after listening to it, I thought, we might as well cover it and mention some key points because there's some counterpoints made by Candice Cooley, which is interesting. And maybe I can provide my opinion on Candice Cooley. We've seen that little pattern. How last night I gave my opinion on the Kenny Veach case, the Dylan Rounds case, my opinion for once. If you wanted to check that out and hear about it, make sure to check out my previous video from last night. The link will be also down below in the pinned comment section, okay? But yeah, I made some notes, some key bullet points, going to read through them, try and understand what it's all about, okay? See if it can be analysed, if there's any moments of hypocrisy, any mistakes made, mess-ups, etc., okay? And one of the reasons to why I did look at this was because I saw a comment from yesterday. It was very recent, and they were saying that if you go to the 10-minute mark of Candice Cooley's interview, which I assume they were referring to the latest one, she ended up messing up with her words or revealing something. I'm not quite sure because I didn't quite catch it, but I noticed some other things mentioned within the video. So we will talk through that, give you my opinions, and we'll just, keep on going. As for the live chat, feel free to chat and react, respond, share your thoughts, opinions, and also talk about a range of other stuff in between. Today, we'll also look at the comment section of yesterday's video, see if any questions need to be answered, any follow-ups, any updates, and I believe there is. Weezer last night, Montello Local, sharing her knowledge, what she knows of about the case or Dylan or behind the scenes and stuff, okay? Said some interesting things about, just recently, there was a new guy in town, may have been a drug dealer, maybe, possibly, had some counterfeit or fake money on him, just seemed a bit of an odd presence within the place. So, does that have significance to Dylan Rounds directly? Not quite, but if you do get these odd characters popping up every once in a while in that area, or even in Lucin, and Dylan came across one of them, things could have got heated. Someone may have seen something that wasn't supposed to, or hear, and it could result to being silenced. That's all I'm saying. So we don't have to completely dismiss it, right? But Weezer did have some more interesting comments in the comment section, so if we can read them out today, share it with you, because I know not everyone will always look back at previous videos, so you can push the previous discussions forwards, so everyone can hear about it, okay? Also, what I do want to say, tying on from yesterday's live video premiere, once again, we had some new names popping in and some known people as well, such as Bob, I don't know his last name, so I'll just call him Bob the Builder, okay? The guy with the pumpkin profile picture. He's got a good profile picture. It's interesting. But yeah, Bob has normally appeared on the Shack Ladies live streams, you remember, sharing his knowledge and his understanding of the case and some of the contacts he's had with possible information and rumours, etc. So it was good that he appeared last night in my video, so shout out to Bob. Shack Lady made a very brief appearance as well. Pancakes did as well. You had American Honey once again, so that's good of her. And then probably a few people in between as well. Can't remember all names, of course, but yeah. And once again, there really wasn't any drama. There wasn't really anything going wrong. It was good behaviour and people talking about the case and stuff and somewhat focused. So that's all good. Once again, not just a one-off. Once again, we're seeing several different people all in the same room, virtually, not causing any trouble, nothing going wrong. So it's just proof that it can work, but maybe just in a certain format, right? In a format where people can't overspeak one another, right? So yeah, I just thought I would highlight that. Was there anything else to point out? Yeah, little observation. What I've noticed is when you do get people coming on over, whether it be a viewer or maybe more so a person that actually covers the case, talks about it, whilst elsewhere they may say a lot, when they're here, they seem a bit more honest, and they seem to word things better. Like, there doesn't seem to be any bullshit. There doesn't seem to be really like lies or anything dodgy going on. It's like the moment they come over here, they're suddenly cleansed, or they just start acting more normal or being more normal, or just literally saying what's on their mind or what they actually think about it. Whether it be something they found, something that's been passed on to them. You know what I'm saying? It just seems a bit more natural, right? I don't know if it's because they might be away from certain people, or just because of the format of the way the video is, that changes how they behave. I don't know, but I have noticed a positive change in behaviour, which is interesting to see. Okay, so I think what we'll do first of all, whilst we wait for people to, I guess, come into this video, welcome if you're here at the moment or if you just joined, we'll take a look at the last comments to begin with, answer anything, see if there's any interesting discussion, any new information on the case, and then we'll go into the whole Candice Cooley interview and all the interesting key points she mentioned, okay? So let's begin from the bottom and work our way up. So we've got Linda Cushing. She wasn't able to watch most of the video due to a hip injury. She said she's still in pain, so get well soon. We got Terry Sonvelt, who I guess is a new viewer. Heated attention. Terry also says, I think Chase Venstra and Dylan both knew of each other before the 25th and could have met before then. Okay. I mean, it's just an opinion, but it would be interesting if that really was the case. But obviously, from what Candice Cooley had said in previous interviews, Dylan has never come across Chase Venstra before. Chase Venstra never knew of Dylan until that first meeting on the 25th. But, sometimes Candice Cooley has said incorrect stuff, so it does make you question what's already been said. Maybe, maybe not. I mean, is there anyone else within the case, any key people that would have known about Chase Venstra and Dylan meeting up at some point? Would anyone know that? Do you have any names, suggestions, possibly? What else? Tom Evans, that is a possibility. Says, I think Chase said, but I don't remember. I mean, Chase Venstra did do that interview with JT, but I don't know how it went because it was a members-only one. H2O Ocean. Interesting username. So bringing in the water, we're bringing in the blessings, literally. Okay. New viewer. Saying, I wonder if Dylan didn't just leave behind his people and control. Okay. Indiana says, agreed. Was Dylan playing a fast one and left with the money his grandfather had just given him in cash? If so, who else was in on it? And Ellie couldn't have cared less. I mean, that there's been questions about that. Did Dylan just run away to get away from everyone and everything? As for the money aspect, they said Dylan's bank records, there's not been any transactions or adjustments made since. So when you take that in mind, it does make you think maybe it's less likely. I mean, with a similar theme in terms of the money part, it's been more slanted towards Candice Cooley by other people, saying Candice Cooley has been doing it for the money or something like the reward money. I think it was actually discussed briefly last night in the video I did, where it seemed like Candice Cooley was disassociating with people, but originally she did interact with them, like Diesel Brothers. And someone came up with a theory saying, oh, did Candice Cooley just use Mob Crew Chris and the Diesel Brothers for that reward money getting it? That's not what I'm saying, that's what other people have said. I mean, in my opinion, as for the money part, I don't know if Candice Cooley and Justin Rounds were expecting, what's he called, Dave, Heavy Sparks Dave, to give that money to him, because I think it was more done on the spot, right? I mean, kind of like with past videos of the Diesel Brothers, when they've been doing recoveries or they've been delivering hay to a farmer in need, on the spot, they've literally said to them that, you know what, considering the situation, you can have it for free, you don't have to pay at all. And then, you know, the family or the farm handler, whoever, has like been kind of emotional and happy and grateful. I don't know if it's for the camera, for the added effect, but it's like them being genuine of like what they're giving. So there are some people assuming that Candice Cooley abused that with Heavy D, exploited it. I don't know. But you can, you know, leave your thoughts down below to what you think. I could do a poll right now. It's a bit of a dodgy poll. It's not coming from my words. I just want to see what other people are thinking. Okay, so we'll do the poll now. Do you think Heavy D Mob Crew Chris was used by Candice Cooley or not? Just feel free to vote, okay? Anything else? H2O says, I don't know if I believe in charts and just beginning, so really don't know what doing, but wondered if Dylan was having trouble meeting the bills and farming hard work. Then he told Jim he could live there. Also, nothing said of DNA on boots. Well, there is. Could be chicken's blood for all we know, and parents definitely being played with in terms of coming and going. Think he left the country. Also, how come some allowed to dig up and go in messing with potential of what's what doing? Christy says, that was my very first theory. Heathenistic says, I think he's buried or in a landfill. Smooth Fishing, long-time viewer, says, pretty sure Candy said all his money was still in the bank and hasn't been touched. True. A bit what HGO says. Well, there was DNA found on Dylan's boots, and supposedly with time, the lab reports police confirmed to Candice Cooley, and Candice Cooley confirmed it in past interviews, saying the blood found on Dylan's boots was Dylan's blood. Okay. The only question is it recent blood or way back in the past, like a little farming incident? You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm thinking. But it was confirmed as Dylan's blood. And in addition, there was DNA found on the boots, which was of Brenner's prints, as Brenner picked the boots up, moved them to his trailer, and then moved them eventually and chucked them around the dirt mound. Okay? So there was DNA found on the boots, right? Just wanted to clear that up. Anything else? Nope. Let's move on. Christy, very interesting video. Q. Yeah. Okay. There we go. Here we go. Tom Evans. Great program today. Bob Farrell. Oh, is it Farrell? Farrell. Ah, I was close. I was close in the past. What's this? Bob Farrell says, Tom, I believe Ed Harshberger's real name is Edgar Frank Harshberger or Barger. Okay. I mean, if any, just base it off the country, first of all, you might need to be in the US to do this. But if anyone wanted to research Ed Harshberger, maybe type in Edgar Frank Harshberger on Google, or maybe on one of those websites to do with the US, maybe land, maybe records. I don't know. If you've got access to it, feel free to type his name in and see what comes up. Does it come up with the real Ed Harshberger? Okay. Supposedly he's about 6'1". He's not that fat. He's slimmer to Brenner. Okay. He might be 60 or around that age. So just be on the lookout. Okay. Because maybe there's a bit of backstory, additional stuff, information which hasn't been talked about. Feel free to look into it yourself. I'll try and type his name in afterwards or so. I don't know if it will come up with anything due to the country I'm in, but I guess we can try. What's this? Tom says, Bob, the longer this goes on, the less I think Brenner did it. He was probably involved, but I think somebody had Dylan removed. Bob says, I think Brenner may have not killed him, but he was part of it, just like Kurt, Ellen and Jim B. They know who is involved. I still think Chase and Robert were part of it. I heard Kurt say it too. Salty's on one of his rants. Okay. So this is what I'm saying. Depending how it's worded elsewhere on other people's live streams and call-ins, you're kind of seeing a shift, a change in behaviour and attitude now where people maybe not doubting themselves, but doubting the narrative, how it's run all throughout this time, where like there was like a certain baseline of, yeah, Brenner involved, Brenner mainly responsible, but then others playing a part too. That's how it's been for a fair bit, right? Even with the other channels, which may be controversial, etc. But then, just recently, it's like, oh, really, Brenner? Could he? And we saw like little glimpses of that previous, like maybe months ago, where some people were saying, I think Brenner was set up. I think Brenner was one of the fall guys. That everyone's just blaming Brenner 'cause it's easier to do. And then the real people involved are walking about. I remember previously there was, I don't know who it was from, I don't know if it was from a YouTuber or just viewers, and they were suggesting that there was a puppet master out there controlling everyone, the one in control, the one who's walking free. I don't know if that's still true. You know, you share your thoughts about that. Do you think there is some kind of puppet master, puppeteer going on or not? Yeah, interesting point by Bob Farrell as well. Let's move on. Here we go. This is where we get into the interesting conversation by Tom Evans and Weezer. Tom says, I don't really know you, but I have figured out that you're smarter than the average Montelion. That's a interesting name, that. Also responding to Black Dove saying, if you would take the time and listen to the chat today, there were a couple of interesting developments that came out. We need your feedback. Weezer responding to Tech Kavina. Who's Tech Kavina? I don't see any Tech Kavina here. Is that someone else? Saying, thank you. I am an observer. Sometimes little things catch my attention, such as what I mentioned in chat today. I may not remember your name, but damn it, I am going to remember you drink cola and cream and pass fake 20s. Lol. I assume that means $20 bills. Tom Evans, have a good night. What kind or colour vehicle does he drive? Why does Weezer keep responding to Tech Kavina? Who's Tech Kavina? Who the fuck's Tech Kavina? I'm so confused right now. Is Weezer responding to Tom, or is Tom just talking to Weezer and Weezer's talking to someone else? What? Oh no. Anyway, Weezer says, every time I've seen him in the past, it is a different vehicle. Nothing fancy, usually just beta cars. I didn't pay attention the other night. I just heard him mention that there was too much snow in Lucin and he couldn't make it out there, so he was heading to Wendover. He usually has someone with him. They usually aren't the same person. The other night was just one guy, but I've seen up to 4 with him. He likes to gamble. The guy the other night was wearing pants like capris. Lol, that caught my attention. Plus, mid-shin lace-up boots. Sexy. Anyway, the people he has with him are usually attention getters. And if I remember correctly from the past conversations, he has property not too far from Dylan's. Is this to do with Ed Harshberger, or what's this conversation on about? I'm just trying to follow it. I don't know who this person's talking about, Weezer. Is it still following on from the chat about that drug dealer guy, or that dodgy person that came in town recently? Tom says, capris and mid-shin lace-up boots is enough to give me nightmares. Are you serious? I know you are, and all I can say is, oh shit. True story, lol. I think that's why they were so memorable. The guy in question is probably mid-50s, 5'9", and probably 190 pounds. Salt and pepper, military type crew cut hair. Okay, so yeah, it's got nothing to do with Ed Harshberger. This is to do with that guy that just recently turned up, I think. He was a bit of a stranger. Weezer saying, and one last comment, his scam is, this bill is too crinkled to go in the slot. Can I change it for a newer one? Oh, I see, yeah. Do you remember if this man was in the bar gambling at the machines the week Dylan disappeared? Weezer says, I have no idea. My mom had been in the hospital for 2 months at that point. I was running around like crazy, trying to make arrangements for her to come home. I don't remember seeing him, but I really wasn't spending much time there. My main focus was getting my mom home and taking care of her, which turned into a full-time job. She had a broken neck, back, pelvis and shoulder, plus all the infections she got whilst in rehab. I was pretty drained by the time Dylan went missing. Medical treatment sure sucks for the elderly. Most of her issues were caused by lack of care in rehab. Okay. Oh, why has that gone off? Did we read it all? Oh, sympathy, yep. Dan Iverson would know. Who's Dan Iverson? Is Dan... What's this? I recall the story. Maybe Not For You might know. So Not For You is another YouTube user who's popped in here and there. At one point, they showed a bit of resistance, but they've kind of cooled off since. Must be... I don't know who they really are, okay? I don't know where they're from, but I assume from the US. Who's Dan Iverson, though? I'm sure I've heard of that name. Okay. What does Weezer say? I doubt Dan has ever seen this guy, or if he has, probably not paid attention. Dan really hasn't been here that long. Kurt may remember his name. But then again, it depends if Kurt is willing to talk, because if there is anyone possibly involved and Kurt knows of them, Kurt will probably either play dumb or just say a load of random stuff just to confuse you. So you got to be wary, I guess. Indiana, let's just check what Indiana has to say. Some interesting point. Speculation, okay? Keyword, speculation to what's going to be talked about right now. Wouldn't it be funny if Brenner was the one to have found Dylan's money where he stashed it elsewhere in a safe place? He rids himself of his horse, then goes off to do his stint in jail. L.E. understands what Brenner has gone through. He has lost his home, his dog and horse, even his much-loved guns, and might go a long way as to why Brenner wasn't arrested, but allowed to clean up his own thing before the day came for him to be arrested on gun charges only. Why has Brenner not appeared in court yet? Could it be the jail system just want to get Brenner back on his feet? Alcohol problems addressed? Dangerous game that, so they're just making sure Brenner is fully recovered, because by the time Brenner does arrive in court, he would have spent most of his prison term in jail already. And if Brenner was to be released too soon, he may well turn back to the drink. Where is Brenner going to go? His so-called mate Don is gone. Kurt is no good for him. He's lost his beloved horse, Briscoe. And is anyone going to care for Brenner if he is then not found guilty in the disappearance of Dylan? No, I'd like to think Brenner, if not found guilty of anything to do with Dylan's disappearance at a later date, had Dylan's money and just sailed off to a new life, he would have deserved it. Anything else? Interesting theory by Christy. I mean, if Brenner just so happened to find Dylan's money, where would it be? Was it just like buried in the ground, buried somewhere on the farmland near the grain shed? Because if it was, has anyone reported disturbance to the ground or nearby in recent searches or in the past? Has that happened, right? We've seen the hole in the grain shed. I mean, you could have argued and said that hole was small enough to hide some money in there, but people have said it was the FBI responsible for digging that hole up, so it wouldn't apply to the Brenner theory of finding money unless it was elsewhere, okay? And just in general, the money situation, which I can't remember who first talked about it. I heard it mentioned on JT's channel, they kept going on about it in burst. Maybe Kurt mentioned it previous. I think Candice Cooley dispelled the idea and said it was just BS and etc. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. All I would say is, if Dylan truly buried money in the ground somewhere why? What was the purpose of it? What's the reason behind doing it? Did he want to bury the money because he felt like someone was going to steal it? Did he want to use it as like a backup plan? Like, if Dylan is normally known for putting money, checks into his bank account, then why did he not do the same with this physical money he's got? Was it not possible to? Would it have seemed too suspicious going to somewhere to put the money into the bank, right? I mean, let's say you had a fair bit of money and you just go into the bank like that. Oh, here you go, here's a big bag of money. They might look at you a bit funny, you might get questioned, police might get involved, you know, that type of stuff. If the money looks new, like literally new, it could have been robbed from somewhere. So does any of that play a role? What's your thoughts about it? Feel free to list it down below in the chat. And do you agree with the possible idea, alternative theory by Indiana, or any of it within? Feel free to list it. We got Cleo once again. Shout out to Cleo. What I will say is, as for being a member, you see that little blue skull. I don't know why, but that blue skull really fits well next to Cleo's name and her profile picture. With it being red and the skull being blue and then the wand in the middle, it just aesthetically looks good. Okay, had to do it with a lisp then because I can't say the word properly normally, which is a bit odd. But yeah, we've got Heavenistic One. So I can answer this. I did already answer it, but I can answer it once again. So it said, I've been trying to follow Dylan's story and I don't remember. Did cadaver dogs get used yet? And if so, did they hit anywhere? Sorry. Also, is the suspect's trailer still sitting with his belongings where it was? Or it would be interesting to see the dog go through his trailer. So as for the cadaver dogs, from what I know of at least, the cadaver dogs could have been used right at the beginning when Dylan's boots were found. The boots were originally going to be sent to the lab for testing, but police decided to delay that so that the cadaver dogs could be used for the scent of Dylan and the boots to maybe try and locate him. But then due to rain, supposedly, it lowered the success rate from whatever all the way down to 20%, and the LE believed it wasn't worth doing so. So there was a bit of delay. There was a bit of lying in between from what Candice Cooley said when the police said they did send it to the labs. When they didn't, they eventually did, and it was confirmed that it was Dylan's blood on the boot. But as for any other time of cadaver dog usage, the only other times I can remember personally from what's been talked about was, I don't know how long ago it was now, quite a few months ago, right? It wasn't right at the start, it was kind of like in the midsection of the case in the months where Lance Kelly, Earthworm Infotainment, explored Jim Brenner's, also known as James Brenner's, burnt down trailer, which burnt down about 1 to 2 years ago from now in the past, okay? And that was in Montello, where Brenner used to live before moving into Lucin. Looking about, seeing if there was anything of interest, found shovels in the ground, thought that was a bit sketchy, and some of little bits and bobs, wanted police to come down and investigate. It was Elko County that came first. Box Elder County, I think, assisted, but they were a little bit slow, not as good as Candice Cooley, roughly worded. They searched around, they was using ground penetrating equipment. They used cadaver dogs as well, and they didn't really find anything. Though on closer inspection, it looked like some items may have been moved about when I was looking at Heavy D's footage of a later point after that event when they flew over Brenner's burnt down trailer. And I have done a before and after comparison video if you want to check back at that, okay? It will be all on my channel, okay? Then the second time when cadaver dogs were used with maybe a bit more success, or at least more dedication, would have been November, around that time of November 2022, in the process of with winter coming in, doing a big push, the final push towards the end of the year, Candice Cooley, Mob Crew Chris, Justin, Equisearch, K9 unit, the cadaver dogs, and they went to the wash and maybe some other places to look about. Did they find anything? That's unknown of. In recent times, they said there's been like pushes forwards and all kinds of things going on behind the scenes, so you could interpret maybe a delayed action, some kind of delayed finding because of the dogs, you know what I'm saying? But it's not 100% confirmed. If there's anyone in the chat right now that can list any other events or dates or months when cadaver dogs were successfully used, feel free to list it down below. But from my knowledge, it's only happened like 2 times from what I know of, okay? As for Brenner's trailer, it's been taken away. Though what I did notice when I was looking back at the Lucin photos of like the grain shed, one of the trailers was taken away, and then some kind of camper van as well. So I don't know whose that was, whether it was Brenner's as well. But yeah, they've been taken away. They've not been returned back. As for Brenner's personal possessions, that's an interesting point. For most part of it, the focus has been on Brenner's phone and Brenner's gun, right? Brenner's gun still supposedly missing. A couple of people, I think, including Ty Corbin, said at least 2 of his guns are missing, and one of which is like a chrome pistol, which has been used in the past. Not to take someone out, but firing like a warning shot. When it came to Chase Venstra and Becky, some kind of affair or, you know, some kind of drama going on with relations, okay? As for Brenner's phone, they said they looked at it in the past, in the early days, but they didn't do it immediately. And there was like a 7-day period of phone data or data, which would eventually be lost if you didn't, you know, analyze it in time. It only lasts for 7 days. I don't quite understand that because I didn't think phones would do that, but it's been described that Brenner had an old phone, so I guess it's limited in capacity, I guess. But as for other possessions, I've not really heard too much talked about, right? Okay, associating Brenner with Dylan's boots because of the DNA handprints found on them. But what about Brenner's clothing? What about on that day? Well, do you know what? We'll have a little closer discussion at that with an upcoming video, as I said. But what about Brenner's like trailer inside? Did anyone take photos? Brenner's bed, was there anything hidden underneath? Was there anything hidden in the cupboards? You know, was it an empty trailer or was there a few different things in there? Was there a TV? Was there any drugs? You know, that's what I've not really heard much of. Is there anyone in the chat right now that is kind of thinking the same thing? What about Brenner's other possessions? What's happened with them? I mean, I could try and do a poll now, word it in such a way. The poll could be along the lines of, you know, what about Brenner's other possessions? And then some kind of voting option, okay? Hopefully that answers your question there. Lone Wolf says, like I said from the beginning, she doesn't need anybody's help. She knows where she buried him. Okay, so that's quite a direct one, saying that Candice Cooley is involved. Pixie, wicked videos, but if the mother is dismissing people's help, then in my eyes, she has to be involved or hiding something. So you are seeing that suspicion with people within the family. I mean, these are people with their own independent thoughts, but yeah. I mean, before we begin, you know, the next part within this video of all the information talked about in the latest Candice Cooley interview, which we'll get to in a second, I will share my thoughts on what I think about Candice Cooley as well. Okay, might as well. Battle Rog. Yep, I've watched your videos and seen a lot of other creators' content on both individuals. Your opinion was certainly insightful, accumulating all the information that is relevant thus far. Shout out to Battle Rog. Smooth fishing. Candice said, no YouTuber has been out there looking for Dylan. I guess Scott Natal hasn't been out there looking and I haven't seen him ask for any money, just out there looking. She acts like she only wants certain people looking and not others. yeah, there seems to be some kind of selectiveness going on. You need to fit this criteria. You need to be on side with Candice Cooley. You need to think the same and not like the same people as she does. Seems to be the case. I mean, what I would say, while Scott Natal hasn't been highlighted or credited for his efforts when searching for Dylan, the only positive is his name has also remained out of the picture, out of the pool, for all the criticisms aimed at YouTubers. You know what I'm saying? Because whilst Lance Kelly has been called out, Ty Corbin has been called out, and maybe some others in between, Scott Natal has been laying low. Not himself, but his name. It's not really been brought into play in a negative way, which is good. So whilst there might not be the true crediting going on, at least he's not being dragged through the mud from the looks of it. Weezer says, I'll try to behave in the next chat. Oh, Weezer. Tut. Okay, you better behave, okay? No, I would say you're okay. You've not caused any trouble, so it's fine. Weezer says, I just wanted to add that Salty Pancakes and I had a private conversation after the show. I think we are good now, or at least understand each other. I know a couple of people caught our short conversation in chat and questioned it. Are you talking about my video from last night, or are you talking about another show where you had a conversation with Pancakes? Because I didn't see Pancakes at the end of my show video, if you want to call it that. What does Joseph Lloyd have to say? Hi, kids. 777. What does that mean? Oh, God, we're getting all this gang warfare. We've got Pancakes coming in with the 333, or the tree. Got the 666, me, and now we've got the 777. Oh, God. Wait, isn't the 77 bus bombing? Oh, well. Says, lol, watching the replay, you know it's interesting that Quinton was mentioned. You know I was remembering Black Dove's timeline. Black Dove worked on that timeline in every single incident. Worthy or not, all laid out on a timeline, and he was always talking about it. I wonder. Oh, right. So, that's interesting. Okay. What does Joseph will say? Lol, I think it's hilarious Black Dove memory is of everyone getting along. Wow, the drama has been going on with all the key players since day one. And I think it's even more funny that anybody would want to go back over all the hours and days of confusing live streams, and how on earth would that ever clear anything up? I don't know, but these crazy theories over and over again only confuse people more. The evidence has all come back by now, and if it wasn't important to the integrity of the case, it would be being discussed openly. I enjoy everybody here so much. Thank you, guys. Okay. So, Black Dove saying his memory of everyone getting all along. Well, whether it be in last night's video or the video before that, because I did actually observe it, witness it when looking back, that in at least one of the live streams when all these people were together, whereas now they're at each other's throats, they were smiling and laughing and joking back then, but they're not now. So there was a time where it was a little bit more peaceful, and that was at the beginning, before all the context and all the rumours are then spread, shared, and then attacked, okay? So there was at least a certain point where there wasn't that much trouble. And I think that's what Black Dove was referring to, those specific times, even though it's a short space, looking back at those live streams, those call-ins before the unnatural behaviour took over. Maybe their egos started burning brighter than ever for the wrong reasons. So there was a short period where you could listen in and see what people have to say, right? It's still somewhat doable. And then we've got Heartbeat Views saying hi. Okay, shout out to Heartbeat Views, new viewer. Okay, let's move on. So regarding my opinion of Candice Cooley, do I think she is directly responsible for Dylan's disappearance? No. But do I feel at times more to do with language, how she's worded things, maybe more text-based, but sometimes auditory as well, verbally, I think it has made her a little bit suspicious. It has made me question her at times. Whilst naturally I've maintained that balance to question everyone, or at least be a little bit wary, for some characters in the case, it's slanted a bit more so. Kind of like how I talked about Kurt Wadsworth last night, how the way he's refused to do some things and then, you know, switching and changing with information of other stuff, it's made me think, oh, a little bit odd. There's no consistency. That's a problem. I wonder why. Then it makes you think, it makes you question, may dig deeper, theorize if necessary. That's kind of happened with Candice Cooley, at least just in my opinion, okay? There has been times, there's been waves, phases, where things may have been ironed out, okay? There's been a little bit of an understanding, whether it be from the East Idaho News Channel video or some of the previous Doug interviews of Candice Cooley, and it's kind of calmed things a little. Okay, I understand that now. Okay, I kind of get that now, yeah, okay. But then at a certain point, something's gone backwards again, or she said something or done something where it's kind of contradicted a previous thing or a current thing going on, and then it's made me question once again. So it's been that back forth, and I think that's been the theme within the case, with all different types of things going on within. It's back forth in opinions, in actions, people's relations, or what else would you call it, allegiances, connections with people. It's been a problem, right? What I will say is, was I ever negatively influenced by what other people said negatively about Candice Cooley? No. Most of the suspicion or questioning which made me think, oh, about Candice Cooley was all down to me, okay? When I've been reading the odd comment or post on Facebook, as you've seen me in the actual videos, I've documented it, and then it's made me get a little bit confused, or it made me realise on the spot, oh, that's a bit of hypocrisy there, or that's a contradiction to what's been previously stated, right? That's how it's been for me. I don't know about the other people in the chat right now. I don't know if other people have been influenced by other channels speaking negatively about Candice Cooley, or people have formed their own opinions naturally. I'm not too sure. But what I will say is, as an observation, when I have listened in the past with the odd videos or live streams, or looking back at live streams where they've said stuff about Candice Cooley, pinned one thing to another, pieced it all together, maybe even if it's just rumours and BS, but worded it in such a way that it could be somewhat believable on first impressions, right? And I wasn't fully convinced or tricked or brainwashed by it, but I could feel and sense that that's what could happen if I allowed it to. Almost on the edge of that abyss where you think, whoa, yeah, it does feel a bit weird. Yeah, that person does seem a little bit dodgy. Oh yeah, this matching with that, the timing, the coincidence, that playing out, that being silenced, disregard for this, detachment from that. Oh wow, yeah, that does all seem to tie in, and you get that feeling, and that's where you should cut it off, because if you don't, you fall into that abyss, or if you want to call it rabbit hole, and then you might get tricked by lies, and then you start a witch hunt after someone. Then it makes you look bad. It might negatively harm the person you're going after. And then once it's resolved or it's debunked, then you need time to be convinced that's the truth. So it's like the reverse brainwashing in a way. That's not happened to me, but it may have happened to others. I guess it all depends who you are, and like the first impressions made by other channels and other people, how they put the point across. If they present themselves well, if they speak well, if they've got a bit of a presence, mystery about them, they might convince you. The probability may be higher, right? So make sure not to do that. I've also been on the other side, or the other end, where it seemed like by the right people, progress was being made, or it seemed like there was hope, there was positivity, but I didn't get tricked by that either. I didn't go all in. I didn't get over positive, because I'm not like that. And then when something did fall through or come to a dead halt, everyone's presence at the time was like, oh, like that, and drained, dropped lowered, right? You know, that thing, if you've got the mindset in certain situations where you don't expect much to happen, but you might be prepared for the worst. If the worst does happen, it doesn't impact you as badly because you were ready for it and you know how to react in a way. If something good did happen, then it's a surprise and 10 times more enjoyable in a way. If you were positive and expecting the best, it can lead to high expectations, which can be underwhelming at times, whether it be a product or something or an event, okay? If it goes well, then yeah, that's good, it's kind of positive, but that heightened sense isn't there. If it does go wrong, then there's a higher risk of it being felt more negatively. So it's more of a lose-lose situation now, okay? So with this case, I feel that there can be progress. Do I think it's going to be like immediate, fast, hard hitting? No, I've not really felt like that, okay? But I think there can be still something that comes out of it down the line. They keep pushing it February, the month of me. I'm joking. But they keep, like Candice Cooley saying, February, where we'll get our answers. I guess time will tell. What day is it today? Is it the 4th or the 5th? Basically, Candice Cooley said the second week of February is when that meeting takes place with Candice Cooley and I guess Justin with Box Elder County, meeting up, talking about things. Don't know what it will be about, but that's coming soon. Should be next week or this coming week. I'm getting mixed up with the dates. But just be on the lookout for that if anything's talked about, okay? So that gives you my opinion, my look into Candice Cooley, right? Let's move on to the key points now, the key bullet points of that interview of Candice Cooley and Doug. The last one, which was like 5 days ago, okay? And then there was like another one, which was before that, which was maybe another 5 days ago before that. I looked at that one, but I've not looked at this, but we will now. So one of the first points made was by Doug himself, saying, I've made no contact with Paramount, I've not reached out to them, but other people are claiming he has, he's in on it. So Doug cleared that up in his own words. Okay. Candice Cooley was saying how her, Justin and the family had interviews with Paramount, this documentary crew, in December of 2022. So that's interesting. That provides a little bit more context because we didn't hear of that previous. So interesting how they've done it near winter time. Is that for the ambience? I don't know. Is it because you can't search? So what else can you do? Do the documentary, do the interviews at that point? Maybe. I don't know if there's a pattern or anything to interpret from it in your idea, in your mind. But, you know, Candice Cooley, Justin, family, interviews. Was it done interviews out there in Lucin or interviews in their own homes? When it came to the Kenny Veach documentary, it was interviews of the key people, family members of the Veach family in their own homes. And then camera crews went and visited their houses and sat down and then begun recording. When Heavy D did his like little interview with questions, that was at the grain shed inside the pole barn, right? So I don't know if the same happened this time. I mean, would it be winter and cold? Would it be sat around talking, or would it make more sense to be doing it inside of their own houses where it may be better heated? Possibly. Anything else talked about? Yeah, Candice Cooley said they and the film crew did go to Lucin, Paramount, to film. So maybe that's how the interviews did take place. But also, I guess, filming themselves out there looking for Dylan. I know the negative slant has been directed towards Candice Cooley only going out there supposedly when a film crew's there to make it seem like she does care and she is searching. That's not coming from me. That's what other people have said. Do you agree with that or not? Feel free to list your thoughts down below. Guess it depends exactly when Paramount went out there. Like, if it's all to do with December, then at least it shows that before that, in November, that final big push, as described by Candice Cooley, that was done without the film crew. So there was natural searches taking place beforehand. Okay? I don't know if I can confirm that with the exact month of when Paramount went out there with the family. Okay? Candice Cooley, what else did she talk about? Candice Cooley wants other news coverage once the case has ended. So I don't know if you interpret this as a bit of a, what would you call it, contradiction, but as we've heard with time, Candice Cooley still can't believe how there's not been any press conferences, press releases, press interviews about the Dylan Rounds case, and that she does have a feeling there may be one in the future, but, you know, too late, and it's actually more patronising and insulting for it to happen late on. Why couldn't it have been done early on? So she said that would annoy her. That's what she said kind of midway through the interview of Doug's. But she also said that she's got several news programs and like groups of people that want to reach out to Candice Cooley and do some coverage on the case, but she's holding off from it all until the case has ended, so it makes more sense, so she can tell the story, so it can be like structured, right? Because it's still ongoing right now. So there's a slight contradiction there made by Candice Cooley, how she says she is surprised there's no press conferences, press release, full-on media attention, and now she's saying, oh yeah, I've got a whole lot of them lined up behind me, but I'm holding them back for now because the case needs to be solved. So it's like, you've got the opportunity technically then, but you're holding off from it. So then why are you complaining that there's no opportunities coming about when you're the gatekeeper? Makes you think, right? And also, it kind of doesn't make sense in a way. You've got a documentary, right? And then you've got news coverage. News coverage should come first before a documentary. A documentary normally is something that has already gone underway, maybe something that's already been solved, and they're looking back on it. You know, even to this day, you get these crime documentaries, serial killer documentaries. The crimes have already happened. To an extent, families have received their justice and people have been found, and even missing people cases. But that's like 5, 6, 7, 8 years onwards. Isn't the documentary a bit too soon? What do you think? I think previous polls have said on my videos that it has been a little bit too soon, that they are rushing on with it, which seems a bit unnatural. And this is the case. If Candice Cooley, and this is the other contradiction, if Candice Cooley believes that these news crews and this news coverage and media attention needs to be held back for now because it's too soon, what does that mean for the documentary, which is considered even more sooner than expected? And yet she thinks that's okay timing, but news coverage isn't. And yet normally documentaries can use footage and may use research to the cases and the news coverage, right? It follows an order, right? You got the case, the police involved, other resources, coverage, media attention, news coverages, resolve, justice, and then a later point, legacy, looking back, reflection, documentary using news footage, news articles, researching the family, the case, etc., and it works all the way down. And yet, in this case, it's everything that's gone on so far, lack of media coverage. Now seems to be opportunities of media coverage, but that's being pushed aside. Documentary first, looking back specifically at what Candice Cooley has said. It's missing out a certain portion of that. It's like a burger without the meat, okay? Doesn't quite work. Now, leave your thoughts to what you think about that, because that's kind of a bit deep already, but it needs to be talked about, right? Candice Cooley, maybe I've interpreted this wrong, but it was kind of like worded as Candice Cooley thanks the LE for what they've done, but it should have been done sooner. And it was like, well, what have they done? You know, what have they recently done? And I think that's talked about a little bit later on, which I'll get to in a second, okay? We move on to the next key point, okay? This could cause a little bit of drama depending who's listening in or who may be in the background. But basically, Candice Cooley said, absolutely, there has not been any Lidar flying over her house or Justin Round's house. No Lidar planes flying over. It never happened. Okay? I mean, would they know? Well, technically, because where they live, they would have seen a plane flying over, hovering over. Unless it was at a time they were out doing work elsewhere, then they wouldn't have known about it. That's the only other thing to say. But considering that there's been a strong focus and presence on the whole Lidar and plane flying over on some channels out there, and yet Candice Cooley just dispelled it like that, saying, no Lidar, nothing out there. In some people's minds, people would interpret it as, well, of course Candice Cooley would dismiss those claims because if she was responsible, she isn't going to admit to it, so she'll do the opposite and reject that point, that theory, and classify it as stupid. I understand that, but I'm just simply passing on from what Candice Cooley had said, supposedly from her own witness report. She's seen no planes flying over, no Lidar whatsoever. Same with Justin. I guess they would have had conversations with each other. It'd be interesting to see what Justin has to say then, if he spoke out and gave his thoughts. So just leave your opinions about that down below, about this whole Lidar never happening. Does it surprise you? Was you expecting it to be true from where you've heard it from? Leave your thoughts, okay? Candice Cooley, tying on with, I guess, that stuff as well as the drama and the background stuff, how it's been causing trouble, the wild theories and claims, her being attacked, her name dragged under the mud, Dylan's name being attacked, negativity, the obsession with the gay theory, the obsessions with other stuff and things in between, being pushed and rammed down people's throats, and the narrative being twisted maybe in a manipulative way. Roughly quoted, Candice Cooley says, it's been a while, to be able to laugh in a long time. So Candice Cooley basically said in the early days, it offended her, it saddened her, it pissed her off, but then eventually she got to the point of not caring as much and just laughing at it in a humorous way, So she has changed or developed with time. She said that laughing is the better way to go about it, right? Which, yeah, okay. All the wild stuff going on, what I've seen, has it made me laugh? Not really. It's made me go, oh no. Oh no, what's going to show up next? But as I said, the really wacky theories about UFOs and Bigfoot, I've never seen any of those discussions. So I'm interested to know where it came from, because I've not seen anything talked about on YouTube or online or in my chat, my comment section, my videos. I've seen hardly anything, right? So it's interesting. Obviously, we've seen the talks about the pigs being involved or the horses eating Dylan up, but the odd point made was just more light-hearted. I know that. Obviously, Candice Cooley family, that was one of the more deeper, wild theories of them being involved and so on. So, I mean, it's going to happen. If there's a level of silence or uncertainty within a case, there'll be a lot of guessing and questioning, and it can go out of control. I guess with the Idaho 4 case, the same there, because there was more silence going on. But I guess it's inevitable in a way. But yeah, anything else? Yeah, Candice Cooley, she said, I don't know if this was around the 10-minute mark, as someone did suggest, or not, maybe past that point, but Candice Cooley said she has put everything on hold, everything in her life. Every ounce of focus has been put into the Dylan Rounds case. Would I agree with that? Well, I'm not her. I'm not present there, so I wouldn't truly know. I think it might be a slight exaggeration physically, but mentally, it's probably true. She's put a lot on hold because it's always in the back of her mind or the forefront of her mind. Like how she said, when she wakes up or when she's eating, she's thinking of finding Dylan, that things need to be done, awareness needs to be raised. Yeah, that's probably definitely going on in her mind. As for the physical part, like being out there all the time searching, most likely she has been out there searching, but maybe not to the same degree as someone like Lance Kelly, Ty Corbin, maybe Scott Natal for the length of it. But that may just be down to location, right? Of course, timing, if there's other responsibilities going on in the background. I understand that, okay? You can leave your thoughts to what you think. Do you agree with that statement made by Candice Cooley, that she's put everything on hold, that all focus and energy is on Dylan and only Dylan? I heard like Candice Cooley did say that there's people criticising her for not caring or not doing enough, and it said that did hurt her, that did annoy her quite a bit. Do I feel that Candice Cooley has done enough? I'd say when looking at the Find Dylan Rounds Facebook page, as for like the raising awareness, creating the group in the first place, getting all those members to join, and I think there's maybe over 15,000 people, setting up the page, sharing links, sending out those seeds and pendants and all that stuff in the background. I'd say on that side, for spreading awareness, at least on a different platform, yeah, Candice Cooley has put in a fair bit of effort. As for the YouTube area, not so much, but as she said, she doesn't really favour that because of the platform, the social media part, that it doesn't quite gel the same. It's not as natural, I guess. That's how she worded it. As for the searching part, I don't know if like Justin has searched more than Candice or Candice has searched more than Justin. Candice did say that they do live far away, like over 170 miles separated, even though they obviously don't live together. They're just far apart, so they can't meet up as frequent if they were to look for Dylan, so maybe that's a factor. I know some people were also saying about how it'd be good to see Justin appear in more interviews and stuff. And that wasn't in response to what Candice Cooley said in this interview, but I kind of like highlighted it as in a way an indirect response. But with Candice saying that we're being far apart in miles, but they can't just simply meet up and do an interview just like that. It's just not as practical. It's not always possible. So Candice Cooley does her own interviews and talks, and Justin does his own, as Candice highlighted, saying that Justin appeared in the Duty Run interview. But that was really the only one Justin has appeared in, a Duty Run one, which was in 2022, which was probably before November, I think, or during November, maybe, yeah. And maybe Justin doesn't want to do interviews, or it's not his type of thing, but I guess it would be kind of interesting to see it from a different perspective within the case, I guess. List your thoughts down below to what you think about that. Next point, and this is a little update to do with Lucin Pond, okay? Candice Cooley said the pond has been refilled just recently, okay? So like a week or two ago, it was like dug up, it was massacred, trees knocked down, land turned up, looking, double checking, nothing was found. So it's been ticked off the list, and just now it started being refilled and I guess put back in shape. Candice Cooley said Box Elder was responsible for that. They did it a bit late, but she still thanked them. So that's interesting. Considering Box Elder County have been very quiet and supposedly not been active and keeping a low profile, and yet all of a sudden now Box Elder are back out there in Lucin, digging up the pond, draining it and stuff. I thought Box Elder didn't put that much effort in. I thought from supposedly what some people have said about Box Elder would just sit around the LE and not actually try. That if it's too hot, they wouldn't walk across the ground. That they would just let Brenner do his own thing and like mishandle possible evidence. So why have LE suddenly put physical effort in to suddenly start digging up the pond? Makes you think, doesn't it? Just seems a bit sudden. But that gives a little update on the pond itself. It's been refilled, I guess. You can share your thoughts. Candice Cooley also just talking about other situations as well in the interview, saying people staging stuff. A vague point to be made, but it has gone about at times. It's been directed at Salty Pancakes for staging stuff. It's been aimed at Lance Kelly, aimed at Ty Corbin. Who's who? What's really true? There's been rumours. Has it been truly proven? That's what I'd like to know. Is there any secret unreleased footage which shows some of the people purposely arranging things and setting stuff up and then turning off the record button and then actually beginning an actual video, making it seem like, oh, this is what we just found? Is there any proof to prove that things have been staged? Any confessions, any footage, any audio? I've not heard of, but have you? Feel free to highlight it somewhere in the chat, in the comment section, if you can, if you want, okay? Anything else? Yeah, Candice Cooley responding back again when I guess Doug brought up about, other people being in the case. What about Chase? Candice Cooley once again cutting in, saying Chase is off everybody's radar. Hers, Justin's, the FBI police. Chase is clean, is innocent. Interesting. Has Candice Cooley said the same thing about the Wadsworths, Kurt Wadsworths? No. So it's like, oh. Makes you think, doesn't it? It's like, oh, Chase is completely innocent. I mean, yeah, the alibi, I guess, ties it in with him being innocent, but what about the points in between? Is there anything in between which also fills out his alibi too and makes him innocent? I don't know of. But yeah, that's what Candice Cooley had to say. I know some people may be like suspicious and thinking, oh, is Candice Cooley secretly covering for Chase Venstra? I don't know. But yeah, not much I can say there really as well. Yeah, Candice Cooley mentioned the next point. All evidence points to one person and only one person, which is Brenner. And this is the bit where I started getting a bit confused or thinking, oh, bit of a contradiction there. Previously, Candice Cooley has said, oh, all this is speculation. And then saying like how, oh, nobody's truly off the radar. Like the police haven't cleared anyone's name, so we're all still in question as well. And also Candice Cooley saying how, yeah, she was like saying previously how, yeah, there could be maybe other people out there that might know something or have played a role. I mean, actually, just think about it now. This interview, which is 5 days ago now, an additional 5 days before that, I think, if I'm correct in saying, or just a week before that one, when Candice and Doug did that previous interview, and then Candice Cooley did add in a certain discussion or question, saying how, I think that Dylan is somewhere nearby the farmland, his farm or the grain shed, but I do feel that if someone or someone else, like a couple, played a role in helping move Dylan with Brenner elsewhere, further afar, then that could be a factor and he might be further away than we think. That was how it was roughly said by Candice Cooley. So in a space of a short time, Candice Cooley has said that she's highlighted the possibility that other people may have played a role, have helped maybe move Dylan, and now she's saying, nope, this person's off the radar, and all the evidence and all this points to one person, and that's it, case closed. That just seems a bit abrupt. How not long ago you were accepting and acknowledging that there might be other people responsible, and now suddenly you're saying, no, only one person is responsible. So either it's literal contradictions made once again, or something has developed in that short space of time from that interview to the one which just occurred 5 days ago. Maybe there's been a breakthrough. That's all I could think of. Because if not, and it's just her mind switching and changing, that's not great, okay? Anything else? Yeah, what's this? Still wants the wallet to be found, but feels that it might not be of importance within the case. Yes, it's evidence, but what does it lead to? The location of Dylan being found? Well, if the wallet is separate, you're probably not going to find Dylan. Does the wallet hold any key evidence? I mean, maybe fingerprints. But if it's linked with Brennan, then it's like, well, it's only just more evidence which we've already known of, which we already know who the real person's involved, and that's Brennan. Okay, but what happens if there was a small possibility that another bit of evidence was found, which in fact actually had different DNA on it? Could that possibly be the big twist, the big turn in the case, which is still awaiting? So like, to find the wallet, Candice Cooley may be like, oh, I don't know if it will actually do much good because we've already got a strong enough case, but I guess we can, accept it because it's evidence, right? Got to follow through procedures, they do the checks, and they say, well, actually, this has some additional prints from another person, an unknown one. And then it's like, oh, so it wasn't just Brenner then. Do you think that's a possibility? Do you think that will happen? You never know. Okay. Was there anything else? Candice Cooley and Justin will... Yeah, this is it. Candice Cooley said in that interview of Doug's just recently that her and Justin, both of them, will do an update interview with Ned Eaton from East Idaho News Channel on YouTube in the near future. I don't know when that will be. What I would say is, if that interview meeting happens with Box Elder the second week of February and it goes somewhat well, I think it'll be after that, sometime in February, when this interview will take place with Candice Cooley, Justin and Ned Eaton. And I think that will be definitely an interview worth watching, because I'd say most of those interviews which has been done on that channel has been quite clear to follow and understand. And it's really been the only place to see Justin in an interview consistently, okay, when he has spoken. And we have done analysis, we've done body language analysis, we've done it all. If you want to check it out, make sure to check out my past videos, it's all there, okay? So just wanted to provide that little update for you, okay, that there will be some kind of new interview coming in the near future, and I do feel that the right questions will be asked and we might receive a little bit more extra information and new stuff, okay? I guess it might just depend on how well that meeting goes the second week of February with Box Elder County, okay? So it's just a matter of time, I guess. Anything else? Yeah, Candice Cooley saying, we have our answer. I think that must have been just like a quote I noted down. Like, we have our answer now. Case closed. And it's like, have you really? Or could there still be an unexpected twist somewhere? Something that comes in. Whereas you can criticise that maybe some YouTubers or some potential supposed searchers and investigators that might have hindered the case in some way or harmed it, and as well Ellie at some point. Could there be some kind of evidence found at a point which could unturn everything? The odd person has said that in comments previously, that there could be something shocking that comes, but it's just a matter of time, right? And as well, Candice Cooley was referring back to this documentary thing, saying she's not making any money whatsoever. No money is being made with this documentary whatsoever. Okay? And then they carried on talking for maybe another 20 to 30 minutes, but there wasn't as much said there to actually note down, okay? I just wanted to provide the key points, the updates, the debunkings of some stuff, I guess, and so on. So you can leave your thoughts down below to what you think of that. Like, do you agree with it? Is there anything there you're surprised by? Was you expecting it or not? And so on. If you've got additional things to talk about or to highlight, make sure to leave a comment down below. And yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Good night and goodbye for now.